Edson Barboza versus Giga Chikadze just took place in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 35, Barboza versus Chikadze, and what an amazing performance by Giga Chikadze, getting himself a third round TKO win over Edson Barboza. Let's talk about the fight, because this one was one of those striking bouts where you're just on the edge of your seat every single second of every single round, because it was very clear from the get-go that both of these guys were explosive enough to get the job done immediately against each other and get an amazing finish. I was looking forward to this fight so much, and it definitely delivered. The first round, very patient, but very anticipating of what was about to happen. You felt like anyone could just switch the other guy's lights off at any moment. I actually gave the first round to Giga Chikadze. I thought he outlanded Edson Barboza quite obviously in the first round. It was still a close round, don't get me wrong. Barboza still landed his shots, but I felt like Giga Chikadze, a little bit more active, landed a few more shots here and there. He did on the official stats as well, so I ended up giving the first round to Giga Chikadze, but I actually gave the second round to Edson Barboza. Even though he actually was behind on strikes, according to the official stats. Because I thought Giga Chikadze's shots weren't landing as clean in the second round. Towards the end of the second round, Barboza really started to kind of look like he was about to break Giga Chikadze, in all honesty. He was ripping him to the body over and over and over again. I know the highlights at the end of the second round didn't show any of these body shots, but in fact, Barboza landed about 5 ripping body shots on Giga Chikadze at the end of the second round. Really solid hooks to the body as well, and you could see Giga Chikadze's body language start to sort of hunch over a little bit, lower his elbows down, start to tuck his arms into his waist. You could see that the body shots were actually kind of hurting Giga Chikadze, and Barboza also landed a couple of big body kicks as well, a couple of good calf kicks as well in the second round. I gave the second round to Barboza, but man, Chikadze comes back in the third. That's all it takes. That is all it takes, man. You get that rest on the stall at the end of the second round, you recompose yourself. It was actually pretty good to see from Giga Chikadze, because one thing you always want to know about a guy who head kick KOs people or body kick KOs Cub Swanson in the first round is how do they deal under pressure. And Giga Chikadze showed on the stall at the end of the second round. He was like feeling it a little bit. You could see him breathing pretty heavy, and he recomposed himself, re-navigated himself, repurposed himself, and caught Edson Barboza with a punch. It was kind of a weird situation at the end of the fight. Great stoppage. It was a bit of a weird stoppage, though, purely because of how Barboza popped right back up out of nowhere. It looked like he was about to go out cold. But either way, Giga Chikadze, third round, Barboza doing good at the start of it, landing a couple of decent shots. Giga Chikadze goes out there in the third round, throws a knee to the body of Barboza that doesn't really land, but Barboza sees it and catches the knee. First of all, there was a very close flying knee, I believe in the first round, that was extremely close to landing for Giga Chikadze. But in the third, he throws a knee to the body, doesn't really land it, so Barboza catches the knee, and Barboza's got 2 arms on the knee. He lets go of the knee, backs up a little bit. He's completely wide open, and Chikadze sees that, and in a split second, he decides, I'm fucking going for this motherfucker. He's got his hands down. He just let go of my knee for no reason. I don't know why he's grabbing my knee. Smashes him with a right hand. Back goes Edson Barboza. A little bit off balance at first, I thought, but then after that, a couple of more big shots. It's very noticeable that Barboza is not recovering, so he definitely was concussed by that first blow. Wobbling all over the place. Chikadze follows up, lands a couple more big shots, couple more right hands on the chin of Barboza. Barboza goes down again. Then, at one moment, and this is crazy, Chikadze activated his inner El Kukui, Tony Ferguson, reincarnated Tony Ferguson in that cage that night. Barboza shoots a bad takedown. Chikadze goes for a dash choke on Edson Barboza when they're on the ground. Barboza's looking to get back up. I thought he was going to finish Barboza there, but no. Barboza manages to fight out of it, rolls over, gets himself to a decent position, scrambles out of the dash choke. Good to see Chikadze going for dash chokes. Shows that he does have some kind of submission game, and if he pulled that one off, he'd be a very dangerous man in that division. But Barboza, credit to him, fought out of the bad choke, kept in there, really was getting choked quite badly as well, so very good of him to get out of it. But after that, he stood back up, and you could just see it as soon as it was over. Barboza gets out of the choke, and he should have pulled guard. In the amount of tiredness that he was, and I assume this is something to do with the fact that Chikadze had just choked him out for about a solid 30 seconds straight, so he just wasn't getting any air in. But he was completely empty when he was trying to get back up. He was like on the end of his breath after being choked out. As soon as he got back up, he had no more energy left. Chikadze landed a good punch. Down goes Barboza. little bit of a weird stoppage. I thought they could have let it go a little bit longer because it is Edson Barboza and it's a huge fight for him, and it's a very, maybe one of his last chances to get towards the title shot. But Chikadze lands a big punch. It looked like Barboza was going down and out anyway. It's just weird. It's like the Overeem Rosenstruik stoppage, but a little bit different, you know? Like if Overeem got beaten up for a bit beforehand. I think the stoppage is weird, but it's justified by many things. The way Edson Barboza went down, weird. The fact that he took a beating before that as well and was getting dash choked before that as well. There was a big sequence of Barboza taking a lot of concussive damage. He'd already been dropped. It makes sense for the stoppage to happen. Even though I'd like to see Barboza go out on his shield and have every chance he has to win. Chikadze was just too good with the hands. A little bit faster with the hands. Barboza wasn't really getting his boxing going. He was starting to land some hooks to the body, as I said before, but just wasn't really utilising them enough. And he wasn't really doing too good with the jabs, with the straight shots, with the hooks upstairs. Chikadze seemed to be beating him to those punches all the time with just more speed. Chikadze looked great, man. It's weird, this sport, innit? It's such a weird fucking sport to me. I predicted Barboza to win. You know why? Because he beat Paul Felder. You know? And he beat really great opponents. And I didn't pick Chikadze to win. You know why? Because he lost to Jamal Emmers, really, and got gifted a decision. And he lost to Austin Springer by rear naked choke. I understand that people develop their games, don't get me wrong, but I thought Barboza was developing his game. You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching Giga lose to Jamal Emmers. Jamal fucking Emmers. I'm watching Giga lose to that fucking bantamweight. A bantamweight. Technically beat Giga Chikadze in their fight. And maybe should have got a decision win. But Chikadze just finishes Edson Barboza. I assume this. The only way Chikadze would have won this fight is if him against Cub Swanson wasn't just a fluky shot that managed to finish Cub Swanson, but a sign of massive, massive improvement. Because he head kicked Jamie Simmons, not really much to see there. Jamie Simmons is a complete can. Another one fed to Giga Chikadze on his way up to the top. Then he beat Cub Swanson. I'm like, okay, but could it have just been one good shot to the body? Who knows? Then he goes out there and beats Edson Barboza. He's going to be a problem for everyone in this division. One problem I would say, though, it wasn't a very high-paced fight, and Chikadze looked like he was really slowing down at the end of the second. Used his burst at the start of the third to get the finish, don't get me wrong, but looked like he was starting to slow down at the end of the second. Wasn't a crazy-paced fight. He throws a lot into his shots, which is something I saw as well. Look, sort of overthrew a lot of his shots at certain points. It was only when he stayed a little bit more measured where he got the finish in the third round. But, man, Chikadze's a problem for everyone at featherweight right now. That's what this win meant. And I'll say this as well. I know that people aren't going to agree with this, maybe, but I'll just say this. Looking at the featherweight division right now, I know this was number 9 versus number 10. Number 9 Edson Barboza versus number 10 Giga Chikadze. But I kind of feel as though Chikadze deserves to jump all the way to number 5. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know it's a bit of a weird one to see number 9 and number 10 and then they jump all the way up. But when you think about it, Dan Ige lost to Edson Barboza, and even if he won less impressively than Giga Chikadze. He didn't even get a finish. So Chikadze beats Barboza. He jumps above Dan Ige. Emmett's been out for ages, and Emmett's last best win is Burgos, who's now number 14, and before that it's Jeremy Stevens. Not the best of wins anymore, anyway. At the time it probably was. But he lost to Jeremy Stevens. What the fuck am I talking about? Either way. Michael Johnson, I guess. That's not even a good win. So Chikadze's got to move above Josh Emmett, Dan Ige, Barboza himself. That puts him at number 7. Arnold Allen's only good win is Sadiq Youssef, who's at number 12. Barboza's a higher ranked guy than Sadiq Youssef. And Chikadze has a win over Cub Swanson when he was ranked number 15. So Chikadze moves above Arnold Allen. Allen's been pretty inactive as well recently. Calvin Kattar's been inactive. His best win is Dan Ige. Not a great win to have that's going to keep you at number 5, in my opinion. I believe Chikadze deserves to move all the way up to number 5, if not number 6, and if Calvin Kattar's still being inactive for the rest of this year, maybe then you can just shimmy Chikadze above him. He called out some names, though. Let's talk about Giga Chikadze's call-out. Great finish, great fight. Let's talk about the aftermath. Longest fucking post-fight speech I've ever heard in my fucking life. Let's just point that one out. It was the longest post-fight speech I've ever heard in my life. Great personality, though. Showed that he's got some character. Got the crowd involved in certain moments as well. It was a good showing by Giga Chikadze. Definitely going to win over some fans. But it was good stuff. It was a good win from Giga Chikadze. But in the post-fight speech, he called out some names. Stupid call-outs. I like one thing about the call-outs, though. He called out the title shot. You're not going to get a title shot if Holloway beats Yair Rodriguez or Yair Rodriguez beats Max Holloway, let's be real, okay? He called out Max Holloway, who's fighting Yair in November. Like, don't get me wrong, I respect him calling out those big names, but, like, check who's fighting in your division before you make call-outs afterwards, you know what I'm saying? Like, Holloway is fighting Yair Rodriguez in November, so he can't fight you. You won't be fighting for the title shot because the winner of Holloway Rodriguez is going to be fighting for the title shot. One thing I agreed with is that he said he wanted to be a short notice replacement for the title shot, and be the sort of alternate guy between Volkanovski and Ortega, which I honestly wouldn't mind, but then again, that would be such a mess if you had someone else fighting for the belt other than Ortega and Volkanovski right now. I think you've just got to leave it be, let Giga Chikadze rest for a little bit, and bring back Giga Chikadze against, hear me out, in a Fight Night main event. I'll find the date right now of it as well. Let's say December 11th, Fight Night main event, or December, not 25th, of course, that's Christmas. December 11th, Fight Night main event, Giga Chikadze, the Korean Zombie, done. Title elimination bout in the featherweight division. That's a real title elimination bout. You've got the Korean Zombie recently bounced back, beat Dan Ige and won quite impressively. I think that's the matchup you got to do next. The Korean Zombie, Giga Chikadze, winner gets a title shot, or the winner puts themselves in position to get a title elimination bout. Who knows? I think that's a great matchup to do. And the loser, Barboza, I guess, is going to have to look for names such as... I feel bad for Barboza. He was actually going to start taking over at the end of the second, but he fucking got clipped, the prick. Either way, I reckon it's got to be like a Dan Ige rematch. It depends how active Dan Ige wants to be. I can see a Dan Ige rematch. If Calvin Kattar's not that active this year, I can see a Kattar matchup for Edson Barboza. I feel like Edson Barboza doesn't deserve to be taken on up and, like, here's Ilia Topuria, 2 Georgians in a row. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Barboza is veteran enough to be used as a name value guy to bounce back one of the top contenders if they can beat him, that is. In Calvin Kattar, Dan Ige, maybe even Josh Emmett or something like that. That'd be a great matchup in my opinion. Maybe even Sadiq Youssef, but he's going to want to be active soon. So, for Barboza, I think just wait it out a little bit, see what the top of the division looks like. One of these losers' upcoming fights, one of the losers of the upcoming fights is going to need a bounce-back opponent, and you're a big name, and you're an older guy as well, so they'll see you as a free win. Let's make that matchup next. Barboza versus any of those guys coming off losses. Chikadze versus the Korean Zombie. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.